Welcome everybody to 1 hour of painting. It's been a week or so since I've been live. I wish you all a super happy new year. I know it's quite difficult in these horrible lockdown times. Just check that you can all hear me alright, because over Christmas my sound might have broken, or all these awful little bugs. Yay, everything's working. So let me say hello to who's in chat. We have Michelle, we have Scorpler, Goblin Squire, Renegade Shank, Adventure Check. Hello, Adventure Check. I haven't seen Adventure Check before. We have Gareth. Hi, Gareth. And we have Philippe. Hello, Philippe. And Ty's in the house. Okay, I'm going to just plough on, because we got quite a bit of painting to do today, and it'll just be a quick speed paint. This is what I'm painting today. This is Goristro. This is from your D&D from Wizkids games. It's absolutely... Thank you for following, Stenfisker. This is from our D&D games from Wizkids games. Absolutely beast of a miniature. Look at the size of it. It's huge. Now, what I've done, I pulled out the old monster manual, and I got it here, because we're going to have a little look-see at the colour scheme for today. I did mark the page, so we should be able to flick straight to it. This is the beastie here. I'll see if you see that better, like so. So we're going for like a kind of a orangey type of fur effect today. So I've already given the base coat black, so we can work from that black really well. What we're going to do is going to start dry brushing some browns. We're going to start dry brushing and adding in some reds and some oranges, and it's going to be awesome, absolutely juicy. So that's what we're going to do today. Let me just tell you a little bit about this creature. He's a huge fiend, chaotic evil. I've never had one of these in our games. I wouldn't want to meet one of these. Now, I put a little post up on Twitter today, and I think it's Gregory. He was telling me about this creature, and he said this creature sometimes carries other fiends into the front lines, which I found quite reasonable, seeing that you see the size of this. You can just imagine him having a couple of imps in each hand, bringing them onto the battlefield, you know. Okay, so this is, I won't go through the whole of the things, but we've got magic resistance, siege monster. It deals double damage to objects and structures. So this is what we're going to have a little blast at today. Absolutely fantastic. Oops, banging my camera. There we go. Okay, so the first things first is we have primed the miniature. I've just primed them with a black undercoat. I removed the mould lines. There were quite a few little mould lines showing on this miniature, so I filed them off. And now the black primer has all dried. I've also added some sand to the base, and what I've done, I've just gone over the sand with a grey primer, and that'll just get a black ink wash later on. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get all my paints on my little palette, and we'll start dry brushing this little bad boy. Hello, Mighty Lancer Games. So I hope everybody had a fantastic Christmas and got all the miniatures and all the D&D books and all the awesome goodness that Christmas is, presents. I will apologise again for my last stream, my Christmas stream. I was a tiny weeny bit drunk on the drinkies. But that's Christmas, isn't it? You know, you got to get drunk at least once a year. So what we're going for is, I got some brown. This would be my first dry brush. So I'm going to just add that to the palette. Just a big blob. And what I'm going to do is I am going to add some red to the palette. That noise you can hear is my 4E scientific paintbrush stirrer, because I'm a lazy painter. And I have a little machine to do this, to the mixing for me. So we've got some red there, beautiful red. And we're going to add some of this orange. It made me laugh. One person said it sounded like a didgeridoo. Reaper John from Reaper Miniatures, he says it sounds like that aeroplane that goes. Is it an A10? An A10? Yes, I highly recommend the paint mixer. This one here, it's quite expensive in the UK. It's £99 from Amazon, but I did a video and I tried it with all my old 90s Games Workshop paints, you know, the old hex bottles, and it even mixed up the old hex bottles from the 90s. So it was worth the money just for that. It's absolutely fantastic. If you're serious about your painting, you've got a lot of paints and you've got a lot of old paints, then you can't go wrong with a little paint mixer. Hey, thanks for subscribing, Nath. Hope you're well. I got some minis getting posted to you this week. Okay, so we are trying out these again. These are the Master Class Dry Brush set from Army Painter. You can get these from Mighty Lancer Games in the UK, and a little bit of promotion for myself. If you become my patron, you get... Oh, I almost forgot. You get 10%. I've forgotten. You get 10% off all purchases from Mighty Lancer Games, which is fantastic. Okay, so we got these lovely little brushes. Now, I did talk about these before, and I did say you could probably pinch your girlfriend's little brushes for their faces, you know, what they put their makeup and stuff on, because they're very similar. Little, I don't know what the name is. I keep asking Claire and I keep forgetting. But these brushes are roughly the same thing, so you could probably get away with pinching your girlfriend or your wives or your daughters brushes from their rooms. Okay, so I'm going to start with the large, juicy little brush here. It's a bad boy of a dry brush. And what I'm going to do is, I got my tissue here. I'm going to just hold up the mini for you all to see. And we're going to just start with the darkest brown. And I'm just going to dip the top in. So I've got a little bit of paint on the end there. And I'm going to take it off on the tissue. And we're going to fly over this bad boy. And we're just going to start getting that brown on quite thickly all over the mini. And this will be a start for the fur. Now, we do the fur first on all our miniatures because we can make a complete mess. We can make a complete mess of what we're doing, and it doesn't matter, because when you get to the fine details and doing the jewellery and the face, we're going to be painting over all this dry brushing anyway, so it doesn't matter. We just want to get the fur kind of finished first, because that's the messy part. That goes on to the other details of the miniature. I'm very heavily adding the brown to the whole of the miniature. So it's just a quick speed paint, but it's super simple. We want to get a nice, quite a thick coating, and we want that black. We want that black popping through, because that's going to be our shade coming through the paint when the miniature is finished. Just flying over there. Go around his face. Now, I'll probably keep all the horns and the claws black on this miniature. Now, the face is going to be like a rosy pink, and the palms of the hands will probably go for a pink as well. So like I say, I'm just heavily going over all the fur areas that I can see. Now on the underarms and places where there could be shadow, like below the legs here, we're not adding so much because we're actually using that black to make its own shadows with the paint. All we're doing is the highest areas of the miniature, like the shoulders, the arms, top of the thighs, hands, top of the head there. That will be a lighter paint source, so we'll be making that lighter so it looks more light from above, and then below, just by dry brushing, we can add that tone or the shade so it's dark underneath and light on top. Just like a light source really, natural light. Rosy palms. Okay, we're nearly there. Now fur is a super easy thing to paint in all different types of colours. And the good thing about fur and dry brushing fur is you can get a really nice looking paint job with minimal effort. I mean, this looks great already. See, you got the brown and the black, and it already is starting to look really nice. It's just a simple little one coat. You've got the black showing underneath, and it's popping through and making that brown pop, and it's really beautiful. But we want to go how it looks with the D&D book. So what we're going to start doing now is going to start adding some reds and then some oranges, and the oranges will be for the highest areas, just to highlight each part of the fur. Hello, Princess 27. Yes, that's another thing as well. If you want to buy this miniature in the UK, Mighty Lancer Games also has these miniatures in the UK. Of course, if you're in America, you can get it directly from the website for Wizkids Games, and that's wizkidsgames.com. But if you are in the UK, it is the best place you can buy in the UK, I think, is Mighty Lancer Games. In fact, I'm sure it is. That's where I buy my Wizkids minis from the UK anyway. Okay, so what I've done there, just added a little bit of red, and I'm adding it into the brown so it's not too strong to begin with, and we'll just go and add that to the brown, and we'll just start highlighting the highest areas of that brown just to bring out that fur. Again, still using the large brush. It's such a big miniature, we don't need to go any smaller at the minute. When we get to the face, we shall bring it down a touch. As you can see, I'm using my tissue. I'm mixing all my paints on the tissue. So I am putting the paint on my brush, what I need from this tissue. This is a kitchen towel. It's a very thick kitchen towel, so it's not actually as absorbent as some kitchen towels. So it's keeping the paint a little bit moist on the kitchen towel there. You don't want to use those cheap toilet roll types, because what happens is if you're dry brushing with the very thin paper towels, your dry brush will just go through, and you'll end up with bits of tissue all over your miniature and your paintbrush. So I recommend getting a nice thick kitchen towel to do your dry brushing with. It makes it a lot easier. Now what I'm kind of doing here is I'm more stippling the paint on instead of dry brushing the paint on. Stippling is when you dab the paint onto your miniature. Now, as you can see, where I'm going here is around where you got the bracelets and anything that's got a little bit of gold, because these will be painted in gold, because these beasts have got a thing about collecting jewellery, and they're a bit of a crazy one. I'm keeping it quite dark towards the edges of all the metal areas, and that gives your natural shade going next to the ends of each of the bracelets and all the other parts of the miniature. As you can see, the red is starting to come through quite nicely with the brown. It's working really nice. We're going to go a bit more red now, because what we're trying to do is we're just trying to bring out an orange effect. I mean, my miniature is going to be a lot darker than what you saw in the book, but you're still going to have that same fur effect. You're still going to get the same type of colours coming through on the fur. My miniatures are always quite dark compared. I've definitely got a more gothic love to my miniatures. All my miniatures definitely have a dark theme, and just the hint of bright colours. I find darker colours look more natural on my miniatures, in my personal opinion, especially as I love dungeons. I like the gritty dark look to all my minis, and I know a lot of you feel the same way. Now, today's stream, I will be doing a raid after my stream today. Goblin Squire, who is a really good friend, and he lives quite close to me in Scotland. He is doing his first ever like Reaper Miniatures live stream. He's done a couple of streams before, but this is his first dedicated Reaper Miniatures stream. So I'm going to raid his channel after the show today. So if you want to stay on a little bit after the show and say hello to Goblin Squire, that would be awesome. And there he is there. No, he doesn't need suntan lotion, Shank. Suntan lotion, honestly. You wouldn't think I made Shank a moderator for the channel, would you? He's the one. Shank's the moderator for the channel, and he's the one who causes all the trouble. You're most welcome. You're most welcome, Hamish. Okay, so we have anyway, so there we are. That's the red on, and that red is looking absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start going into the orange. Now, I've got to be careful now with the orange, because the orange is very bright. So what I'm going to do, as you can see, I'm mixing it on the palette again and just bringing it down, because we've still got some brown on there and some red. So we're just toning down that orange. As you can see, it's quite darker compared to what's on my palette over there. And again, we'll take off some of that paint, and we'll do a little test run first, a little delicate test run. Yep, and that's perfect. So we can go ahead with that. It's just dark enough, but light enough to make a little impact on the fur. And as you can see, I'm keeping areas which are recessed on the beast a little bit darker, so we're just kind of following the lines around the beast. Get his bum all shiny on the tops of the shoulders, and all the places where like a little light source would come in to play. It's starting to come up nice now. I'll keep on going. Top of the thighs there. So what we're doing is just adding slightly lighter tones to the beastie, and as each layer of dry brushing, it will get lighter and lighter. And what's happening now is you're getting shades, natural shades from that undercoat, which is the black. So all the places where it needs to be darker, they're staying dark, and we're just working on lighter areas in on the miniature. Just add some more to the chest there. There we are, lovely. We'll keep going. We're starting to make it more orange now. I'm going to lighter. Now each time I add a lighter coat, what we're doing is we're doing it less. So what we've done, we started off with that black, then we've gone heavy on the brown, then we've gone on the red, and it's slowly like a pyramid, and we're working our way up. So when we get to the top of the pyramid, you should just be on the highest point of each area of the miniature, and that's the part that will be the brightest point of that miniature. See, like we're doing here. Now the bottom, we want to keep that dark, but what I'm trying to do is keep all the areas that are at the top as bright as possible compared to the bottom of the miniature, apart from this area here, which the light is shining down onto the miniature. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go into the last highlight, and we're just going to go once more and add a bit more orange to the last parts for the fur, just there as well. So we're going to gain more orange, just a little bit brighter. Now I'm not going to go to the complete orange, I'm still keeping it a little bit dark, so we're just going for the last bit now. And we're just touching up around little areas, just a tiny little highlight on certain parts of the fur, just to give it that little bit of orange that's coming through. And once that's all dried, that will blend in nicely with the rest of the miniature. Super duper, absolutely beautiful. I love painting these big beasties. I mean, they not only are they easy to paint because of the size, they look fantastic on the tabletop. They really catch the eye if they're in game. I mean, you see that on the table or in your dungeon, you're going to be like, yeah, okay, I'm out of here, I'm going. Okay, so that's roughly what we're going to do for the skin, and we're just going to let that slowly dry. I'm going to drink a little bit of my coffee because it's cold. I'm going to wash my dry brush. Now, when I wash my dry brushes, I have shown you before, but I'll show you on every episode because it does make sense. All I do is I wet my dry brush and I take the paint off by dry brushing my tissue, and this takes most of the paint off. Now with these size brushes, you really need to get some water onto these brushes because they're so thick in the middle. There, if you get paint inside there, that's going to harden and your brush is going to be ruined after the first use. Now it's the same with all brushes. But with these dry brushes, because they're so large, you got much more chance of paint going hard in the bottom of the stem there, and that will ruin that brush instantly. So you really need some nice clean water and give these a good wash, A good rinse under the tap is also good, but as we're on a show today I can't do that, so I'm just going to keep on drying these off until it comes a bit cleaner. I'm not putting the dry brush in my coffee, Shank. There we are. So that's the dry brush clean. Now as you can see, it has stained a little bit. It does stain a little bit, and it is quite difficult to get 100% super back to its original state. But there's no paint in there at all. It's nice and fluffy again, and it's perfect for its next use. The key is looking after your brushes. I still get through many brushes. There's no doubt about that, but looking after your brushes really does help. Hello, Mrs. Touch. Put it in Irish coffee. That should clean it again. I've actually been experimenting talking of brushes. I got a lot of old dry brushes that have gone hard. Now I've got that you know, with the 3D printing, you get the alcohol mix. I've been experimenting with my brushes and leaving them soak like overnight in the alcohol mix, and it's actually softening up the brushes again, so I can actually remove the paint. So I might do a little show on how that works, but if you actually use the alcohol that you use for washing your 3D miniatures after they've been printed, that is it does work to kind of repair old brushes, so you can at least make them used for dry brushing, if nothing else. They're not going to be the best, but at least they'll be usable. So that's quite a good tip if you want to try that, if you've got the alcohol mix. Okay then, let's carry on. So as you can see, he's drying out nicely, and he's getting some lovely little effects all over his fur. So what we're going to do is we shall go and start work on his face. Now his face is all pinky. So we got some pink here. Now this pink is a little bit brains pink. This is a little bit too pinky for me. But we'll have a look. See, I think I might add some mix to it. Let's have a look. See what you look like. Oh. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Nath. If the brushes are ruined, some brushes, you know, there's nothing you can do with them. But you could make a nice little dry brush out of them. So if you can get most of the paint out of those brushes if they're ruined, that alcohol does really helps it. It softens it up, and it's a great way, because what you can do then is you can just snip the end of the brushes off, and you can use it as a small dry brush. Okay, so we got some pink here. Now I think that pink is a little too. I'm going to actually add a tiny bit of black, weeny bit of black. Yes, I use old brushes for my basing, putting my PVA glue onto my base. That works perfectly. I mean, there we are, done it with this one. I just used an old brush, added PVA glue, and just added some sand. Okay, I'm just gonna have a little tester on this face here. I'm just gonna, again, this is a small little dry brush, so I'm just gonna go down, take some more paint off there. There we go. Just gonna lighten up that face a little bit. Thank you for subscribing, Hamish. Some people hate dry brushing, but dry brushing is just, for me, a super fast way of getting large miniatures painted. You can't really do it with the smaller miniatures, but for the large miniatures, it's fantastic. It's just a super fun, fast way to enjoy painting. I mean, you don't have to be a master painter to learn how to dry brush. Dry brushing is just a great way of getting some paint on your Mini with minimal effort, and you can get a really nice effect going. It's my favourite way to paint is dry brushing. Yes, I'll add the details of the eyes and the teeth by hand, but if I can get away with dry brushing my miniatures, then I'm super happy, because I just think dry brushing is a lovely way of doing things, especially for dragons. Dry brushing dragons brings out a beautiful effects for your dragons. Now what we're doing here with the face, as you can see, I'm just dry brushing the face here, but what's going to happen is this will have an ink wash over the whole area of all the skin, and that will blend what I've just done in perfectly with the rest of the miniature. So it's a very simple way of just adding some nice little tones just to get the basic face in. And what we'll do is we'll add a light ink wash, light brown ink wash to all the skin areas, and of course we'll take that ink wash off with a tissue, which will leave all the recesses with the beautiful ink wash. Now as you can see, what I'm doing, I started off with a darker, I added some black to the pink. What I've done is I keep on adding just pink now, so it's getting stronger and stronger, but it's given the same what I did with the brown. I'm working up to a lighter shade around certain areas. Now it doesn't matter if I go over the hair or parts of this miniature, because I will be painting again over it later on. Each part of the miniature has its own place for painting. So we got the fur, we'll do the face, then we'll do all the metal areas, ink washes will be added, eyes will be painted, teeth will be painted, tongue will be painted. It's a very, very simple thing. Fire Master channel? What have I missed in chat? Okay, so I've done the palm of his hands, and we've just gone over here. So again, I'm going to wash the brush, and we'll move on to the next part. Mighty Lancer Games has shouted, "Pokey stick! Pokey stick!" Thank you, Nave, for giving out subscriptions to the channel. That's very kind of you. Okay, so now we are going on to the next part. Now, let me see if I can find a different brush. Let's see what I got here. Okie dokie. I got a manky old dry brush here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start adding some of the gold work. Actually, what I'm going to do is go straight to silver. I got some airbrush silver from Vallejo, which is really nice. And we'll start off by making sure it comes out of the bottle. There you go. Now, airbrush paint, people don't realise, but airbrush paint is a very, very good paint for doing fine details and lots of really nice work on your miniatures. And the reason that is because it's very thinned down paint, so it goes onto the miniature very, very easily. I would not recommend it as a base coat, but if you're doing things like over the black, then the air paint works really well, not only for airbrushing of course, but it works really well as a brush on, because of that thin coat. It's very, very nice to use. So what I'm going to do is just quickly go over the silver areas, and what I'm going to do again is, I got a regiment brush here from Army Painter. Now what you can do is the same. You can actually use it as a long brush and just take the paint off and go over the metal areas and just streak it on. This won't ruin the brush, but what you're doing is you're having more control of the paint going on to the miniature, and you can just quickly add the paint and keep the black recesses. So what's happening is I'm getting a weathered effect, a simple weathered effect, without the need of an ink wash, without the need of adding anything else to the bracelet. I will be adding an ink wash, mind you. I add an ink wash to everything. So again, we just quickly go over here, just putting the paint on. Now, the reason why I'm leaving the paint distressed, as I call it. Now, what I'm doing is not to the edges. It's just the center of the actual parts that I want painted. Because what will happen is I will add an ink wash over this, and that will fill in the areas and make it look like chipped paint or chipped steel or dents, whatever you want to call it. This is a quick, fantastic way of doing things. When you're a speed painter, you learn all these little things you can do to maximize your work and get as much painted as possible, but you also do it to a quality that is still ready for your tabletop, and that is the key. If you can paint a miniature in an hour, 2 hours, and you can make that miniature look great for your D&D games or your anything, you're on a winning streak. Because that's what we all want. That's the key to everything. We all would love to have showcase miniatures, but that's never going to be that's never going to be the case for most of us, because we want our armies painted for our games. So what we're trying to do is get the miniatures painted to a nice tabletop standard, and this is what I've done. And I like the way I paint. I like the way my art looks. We all strive to be better, but sometimes you have to get to a point and say, well, yeah, try to be happy with what you're doing. There's always going to be a better painter. Always. Doesn't matter how amazing you are at painting, there'll always be a better painter. And once you realize that, it's not going to put you off painting, but it will make you more confident in your own painting, because you can be so put off seeing everybody's work on Twitter and Facebook, YouTube, because they are so good. I mean, I'm coming up to 50 years old this year. I know I'll never do showcase standard painting, and I don't want to. I want an army of miniatures so I can play my games. I want them to look good enough for my games, of course, and I think I've achieved that without too much hassle. But everybody needs to find their point and realize that sometimes you got to say, right, this is where I've got to. I'm happy with this. I want my miniatures all to be the same. And once you feel happy and confident with yourself, you'll be amazed what you can do. You'll be amazed what you can do. What's cookies? Cookies? What's going on with the cookies? Did I miss something important apart from cookies? I saw cookies. Yeah, sorry, everybody's talking about cookies. Just so if anybody's wondering what I'm freaking out about. What did I miss? Go on, I'm listening. Cookies is the only way to really grab my attention. Yes, anyway, back to this. We haven't got much time left. We only got 10-15 minutes. As you can see, I've added all the silver. Very simple. Now, just going to let that dry. I'm going to be painting gold over the silver. Now, the reason why I did the silver first is because when I add this gold, this will give me a two-tone, and I can go lighter on certain parts of the steel, and that'll give me the shade. That'll give a lighter tone to the brass, and it's just a simple little trick, but it works really well for when you're doing your minis. Right, this guy's got a couple of little nose rings as well, so what we'll do is we'll quickly blast his little nose rings. There's a tiny bit. As you can see, when I go to finer details, I go down to my Masterclass brush. This is the Army Painter Masterclass brush, and it's a beautiful brush. It's got a really nice fixed stem for biker hands. And it's around £6.50 or £5.50 from Mighty Lancer Games. Now, £5.50 or £6, £7 even for a Masterclass brush like this one is fantastic. This is my go-to brush for detailing everything, and for that price, it lasts a very, very, very long time. So highly recommended if you're on a budget. Army Painter aren't the most expensive, that is for sure, but they're not the cheapest. But I think for £5-6 a brush, you can't go much wrong with that. I mean, this is a beautiful, beautiful brush. I mean, Army Painter do a nice little set of brushes. You can buy the set as well from Mighty Lancer Games. But again, fantastic. I've always used Army Painter brushes. They just fit in my hand because of this stem. They're just beautiful, nice. They just work so well. Twiddly, 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 twiddly. Okay then, what's next? Right, okay, so what I'm going to do now, while that silver is drying, we're going to go back to the black, because what we can do now is, remember what I said about making a mess? When you make a mess, you can fix your mistakes with the dry brushing. You can go back over those areas after you've dry brushed and just fix little areas and just add a little bit of black or whatever colour you want just to fix, like these horns here. I want my horns black. Thank you, Colin, for following. Are you Colin, my old chef friend by any chance, or a random Colin? I had one of my best friends for years. He was the head chef, and absolutely fantastic guy. His name was Colin. I don't know if... Well, thank you, Colin. Thank you so much. Obviously, he's not Colin the chef. But anyway, thank you so much for following. It's beautiful. Yes, I haven't been doing the old Twitch streams long, but my confidence has been building on each stream. It's not easy. You watch all these people doing Twitch streams, and they're there for hours and hours doing their stream, and it's difficult. It really is difficult. I mean, not only are you all watching me paint, which in itself is terrifying. You know, you're all asking questions and stuff. It's not easy. The good thing about the stream, though, is I know many of you are my friends and Goblin patrons, and because I talk to you so much on Patreon, you know, I feel like I know each and every one of you, and that really, really does help. And I'm going to quickly jump in here and say, with the nails, I'm keeping everything black on this bad boy. So we're just going to go over the nails quickly. Boom, boom, boom. And again on this one. Now this is a really good tip as well. If you're scared of painting nails and stuff, normally I'd use bleached bone or skeleton bone colour for nails. Then I'd use an ink wash and I'd slowly highlight those nails up to a fine tip, especially on dragons. But if you are new to painting and you want a really good look, just paint the nails black, paint the teeth black, paint the horns black, and what you can do is you can just dry brush a very slight hint of grey, just a lesser grey, and what will happen is that will bring out all these lovely details along the horns, again with minimal effort, because you've done that black base coat, and the grey will just highlight the certain ridges along the claws and the horns, but it'll give a beautiful effect. When you paint your horns and your claws with skeleton bone, not only do you have to get the shadows at the base of your nails, like on a normal nail, you know, you'd have the bottom of the nail and it'd be all dark and then it goes lighter towards the front. When you're working with black, it's a easy way to finish off a miniature but still make it look fantastic. The same with the hoofs. The hoofs here, keep those black. Just add a tiny little dry brush of grey on each hoof, just to bring out emphasize the highlights on each hoof, and that works really well too. Like I say, these teeth, I'll paint them with a nice black. The tongue, I'll just add a little bit of pink to the tongue, I think, but nothing major. Nobody is forcing anybody to paint, believe me. I think it's fantastic that people are actually wanting to watch me paint when they don't paint, because that just proves that I'm doing something right. If someone's interested in what you do, and you know, maybe I'm just talking a load of gibberish, I don't know, but if someone wants to watch me paint and they're not a painter themselves, that must mean I'm doing something interesting for others to watch, and that's just awesome. I mean, that's what it's all about. Having a bit of fun. I mean, most of us are stuck in the house now. Okay, so as you can see, this is coming on fab. Got the pink on the face there. That pink, that's going to have a nice little brown brown ink wash. Same as the palms. Now, as you can see, it's quite chalky what I've done there with the dry brushing, but that's where the brown ink wash comes into play, because what will happen is that'll blend that pink and it'll really push it back down into the skin, and it'll take away that little chalkiness around the sides there, and the same with around the eyes. Just by adding that ink wash, that tones down any chalkiness from your dry brushing. But other than that, this is looking awesome. Right, we've got 10 minutes. The reason why I keep on mentioning that is because I'm trying to work out when to raid raid Hamish's stream. Look, I'm absolutely awful at it. Look, I even had to write it down on this bit of paper. Raid Goblin Squire. Because I'm useless. I've raided somebody once before, And I couldn't remember how to do it, so I had to write it down on a bit of paper. I'm a nutter. Oh my goodness. Okie dokie, let's carry on a little bit more. Okay, I tell you what I'm going to do. I think this is dry now. Let me just work on those little teethies. Let's get those teeth painted in. Very simple. Again, we're going for black. And again, very simple. Bum bum bum. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. Bum bum bum. Just using the detail brush by Army Painter again. Super simple. Bum 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 bum. This guy needs to clean his teeth. Okay, bottom one. And again, if you watch what I'm doing with my hands, when I start doing fine detail, I use both my hands to control my painting. So I've got my bottom hand here. It's controlling my other hand. Now, I don't even think when I do this, it just happens naturally, because once you start painting more and more miniatures, it all comes to you natural. But you use two hands and you control your painting that way. It makes it a lot easier, especially with the bigger miniatures, because most of you, I don't do it myself, but most of you will use a paint holder for your smaller miniatures. You can't fit this one onto a paint holder, so you have to use your hands to try and steady yourself. And when you're doing things like eyes, you've got the miniature like so. I use my thumb there, and I shall go straight in directly like so, and I'm using both my hands, and that gives me a very, very perfect non-wiggly wiggly non-wiggly wiggly so, I'm laughing. It doesn't make your hands shake, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Hello Thule, how are you? I saw you had a stream last night, but I didn't see any messages or anything. Or was I would have popped in and said hello to you, Thule. But I noticed you did do a stream on Monday, but I didn't see any posts or anything about it, so I do apologise. I would have liked to have popped in and said hello. Yeah, my technical terms are awesome for painting. You got all these major pro painters, and they'll go into extreme detail about all these different words about how to do this and how to do that. If you watch my channel, I'm afraid I've been painting like over 30 years, and I still don't know all these stupid words that come out for different parts of the miniature or different painting techniques. So if you hear wiggly bits, if you hear blob it on there, that's just my that's just my way of getting through the day. See, all you got to do, the key is to enjoy painting. If you get too serious, you know, there's so many serious painters out there that really are too serious. They need to enjoy what they're doing more, and that's the key. Enjoy what you're doing. Life's too short to start farting around and being crazy serious. Okay, let's carry on a bit more. Let's add that ink wash, shall we? Now what I'm going to do is we're going to add an Army Painter soft tone ink wash. This is a great little ink wash. It's quite dark. It's perfect for what we need though. It will really add some. See, I'm still shaking my paints without using my. Hello, Mr. Fish. Hello. Now, Mr. Fish there, he is an awesome guy. He has helped the Goblins Immortal loads and loads over the years with artistic work and just being an awesome person. But I think he's arrived 5 minutes too late because we're going to be finished in a minute. He keeps on saying, I'm going to try and make your stream. Although you're not as bad as Shank. My moderator, Shank. He normally turns up 5 minutes before the stream ends. Just because he's awesome. He's just so cool. He knows how to arrive late. He did make it this... Did he? Did I miss my... I've lost the plot. And I haven't even been drinking today. Okay, let's go and add this beautiful, beautiful ink wash. Ah, you're an awesome guy, Mike. Mr. Fish, you're not Mike, are you? Yes, you are Mike Fish. Is it Mike Fish? Is it Mike Fish or is it just Mr. Fish? I'm sure there's a Mike at the beginning of that. Good. You get over there, Mr. Hamish, and I will be joining you in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Good luck and loads of love to you, pal. Okay, let's finish this off. What we're going to do, just to finish off today, we're going to add the ink wash to the face. And this, like I told you, will tone down the whole of this area. Bring out all the details. What I'll do as well is I shall finish off this miniature. I will make a little 360 video and I will place that on YouTube. I'll also be adding this stream to YouTube as well. Now, as you can see, instantly, just by adding this beautiful light ink wash, that face has just blended in perfectly well with the rest of the miniature. And we'll do the same with the hands. So, what I'm trying to say is, when you do your dry brushing, and you think, oh, that looks chalky, that doesn't look right, it looks a bit of a mess. Just try and hold your horses a little bit and have some faith in yourself, because what will happen is you start adding that ink wash and everything will blend into place. Once that ink wash is dry, you can highlight over the top areas again with your pink. That'll give you the shade of the brown around the face. These palms I'll highlight with a little bit of pink, and it'll just look awesome, absolutely awesome. Again, just add in this ink wash. It's a really, really nice ink wash. You're not losing too much of the original colour, but you're getting all the shading that you need. Now, what I'll just quickly show you before we finish is, everybody knows I love my little Q-tips, or I call them, these are my ear plugs. This is what I get the Shrek earwax out of my ears with. When you get to my age, you don't care. What you can do is you can just go over with your little earbud or your cotton bud or your baby stick, whatever you want to call them, and you just take away the highest areas where the ink was, just on the highest areas. This actually helps when you want to add the highlights later on. It's just controlling that ink. If you can control the ink, if you can control the spice. Okay, so what we're just doing is, if you've got any pooling of ink as well, it's great to get rid of pooling of ink. And there we are. The face looks awesome like so. So there we are. This has been an absolutely blast of a stream today. I'm so happy to see you all on my stream. What I'm going to do now is I am going to try and raid Hamish on his channel. I will say loads and loads and loads of love to every single one of you. Please stay safe out there. I know the whole of the UK is in lockdown now. So please, everybody, stay home. Do your shopping if you need to. But to everybody, all my patrons, I don't want to lose any one of you or anybody who's actually here. I mean, I say that my patrons, I mean anybody. I don't want anybody to get sick. So please stay safe and loads of love to each and every one of you.